The Book of Tobit. Tobit the exile. I, Tobit, have walked in paths of truth and in righteousness all the days of my life. I have given much in alms to my brothers and fellow country folk, exiled like me to Nineveh in the country of Assyria. In my young days, when I was still at home in the land of Israel, the whole tribe of Naphtali, my ancestor, broke away from the house of David and from Jerusalem, though this was a city chosen out of all of the tribes of Israel for their sacrifices. Here the temple, God's dwelling place, had been built and hallowed for all generations to come. All my brothers and the house of Naphtali sacrificed on every hilltop in Galilee to the calf that Jeroboam, king of Israel, had made at Dan. Often I was quite alone in making the pilgrimage to Jerusalem, fulfilling the law that binds all Israel perpetually. I would hurry to Jerusalem with the first yield of fruits and beasts, the tithe of cattle, and the sheep's first shearings. I would give those to the priests, the sons of Aaron, for the altar. To the Levites ministering at Jerusalem, I would give my tithe of wine and corn, olives, pomegranates, and other fruits. 6 years in succession, I took the second tithe in silver and went and paid it annually at Jerusalem. I gave the third to orphans and widows and to the strangers who live among the Israelites. I brought it to them as a gift every 3 years. When we ate, we obeyed both the ordinances of the law of Moses and the exhortations of Deborah, the mother of our ancestor Ananiel, for my father had died and left me an orphan. When I became a man, I married a woman from our kinsfolk, whose name was Anna. She bore me a son, whom I called Tobias. When the banishment into Assyria came, I was taken away and went to Nineveh. All my brothers and the people of my race ate the food of the Gentiles. But for my part, I was careful not to eat the food of the Gentiles. And because I'd kept my faith with my God, with my whole heart, the Most High granted me the favor of Shalmaneser, and I became the king's purveyor. Until his death, I used to travel to Media, where I transacted business on his behalf, and I deposited sacks of silver with 10 talents with Gabael, the brother of Tobias, at Rages in Media. On the death of Shalmaneser, his son, Sennacherib, succeeded. The roads into Media were barred, and I could no longer go there. In the days of Shalmaneser, I often gave alms to the people of my race. I gave my bread to the hungry and clothes to those who lacked them, and I buried, when I saw them, the bodies of my nation thrown over the walls of Nineveh. I also buried anyone who were killed by Sennacherib. When Sennacherib was beating a disorderly retreat from Judea after the King of Heaven had punished his blasphemies, he killed a great number of Israelites in his rage. So I stole their bodies to bury them. Sennacherib looked for them and could not find them. A Ninevite went and told the king it was I who had buried them secretly. When I knew that the king had been told about me, and saw myself being hunted by men who would put me to death, I was afraid, and I fled. All my goods were seized. They were confiscated by the treasury. Nothing was left me but my wife Anna and my son Tobias. Less than 40 days after this, the king was murdered by his 2 sons, who then fled to the mountains of Ararat. His son Esarhaddon succeeded. Ahikar, the son of my brother Anail, was appointed chancellor of the exchequer for the kingdom and given the main ordering of affairs. Ahikar then interceded for me, and I was allowed to return to Nineveh, since Ahikar had been chief cupbearer, keeper of the signet ring, administrator, and treasurer under Sennacherib, king of Assyria, and Esarhaddon had kept him in office. He was a relation of mine. He was my nephew. Tobit is blinded. In the reign of Esarhaddon, therefore, I returned home, and my wife Anna was restored to me with my son Tobias. At our feast of Pentecost, the Feast of Weeks, there was a good dinner. I took my place for the meal. The table was brought to me, and various dishes were brought. I then said to my son Tobias, "Go, my child, and seek out some poor, loyal-hearted man among our brothers exiled in Nineveh, and bring him to share my meal. I will wait until you come back, my child." So Tobias went to look out for some poor man among our brothers, but he came back again and said, "Father." I replied, "I am here, my child." He went on, "Father, one of our nation has just been murdered, and he has been strangled and then thrown down in the marketplace. He is still there." I sprang up at once, left my meal untouched, took the man from the marketplace and laid him in one of my rooms, waiting until sunset to bury him. I came in again and washed myself and ate my bread in sorrow, remembering the words of the prophet Amos concerning Bethel. "I shall turn your festivals into mourning, and all your singing into lamentation." And I wept. When the sun was down, I went and dug a grave and buried him. My neighbors laughed and said, "See, he is not afraid anymore, for a price had been set on my head earlier for this very thing. Once before he had to flee, yet here he is beginning to bury the dead again." That night I took a bath. Then I went into the courtyard and lay down by the courtyard wall. Since it was hot, I left my face uncovered. I did not know that there were sparrows in the wall above my head. Their droppings fell into my eyes. This caused white spots to form, which I went and had treated by the doctors. But the more ointments they gave me, the more the spots blinded me, and in the end, I became completely blind. I remained blind for 4 years. All my brothers were distressed on my behalf, and Ahikar provided for my upkeep for 2 years, until he left for Elymais. My wife Anna then undertook woman's work. She would spin wool and take cloth to weave. She used to deliver whatever had been ordered from her and then receive payment. Now, on the 7th day of the month of Distrus, she finished a piece of work and delivered it to her customers. They paid her all that was due into the bargain, presented her with a kid for a meal. When the kid came into my house, it began to bleat. I called to my wife and said, "Where does this creature come from? Suppose it has been stolen. Let the owners have it back. We have no right to eat stolen goods." She said no. It was a present given me over and above my wages. I did not believe her and told her to give it back to the owners. I felt deeply ashamed for her. To which she replied, "What about your own alms? What about your own good works? Everyone knows this about you." Then, sad at heart, I sighed and wept, and groaning began this prayer. "You are righteous, O Lord, and righteous are all your works. All your ways are grace and truth, and you are the judge of the world. Therefore, Lord, remember me, look on me. Do not punish me for my sins or for my faults of ignorance or for the faults for which my ancestors committed against you. For we have sinned against your commandments, and you have given us over to be plundered, to captivity, and to death, to be the talk, the laughing stock and scorn of all the nations among whom you have dispersed us. And now all your decrees are true when you deal with me as my faults and those of my ancestors deserve. For we have neither kept your commandments nor walked in truth before you. So now do with me as you will. Be pleased to take my life from me so that I may be delivered from the face of earth and become earth again. Better death than life for me, for I have endured groundless insult and in deepest sorrow. Lord, be pleased to deliver me from this affliction. Let me go away to my everlasting home. Do not turn your face from me, O Lord. Better death for me than to see so much distress in my life and to listen to insult.